Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. Uh, First of all, thanks for joining the session. Um, I know it's a Friday evening. You would rather be somewhere enjoying, but you chose to be here instead. So we appreciate that. Secondly, let me congratulate you once again for being admitted to NUS Electrical Engineering or Computer Engineering program. Okay. Now we will start the session with a short a short presentation by Taufik, who is graduating this year with a double degree. He was undergoing a double degree program, and he will share his experiences and advice with you. And after Taufik is done, we will go on to Ella, who is also a final year student, and she will also share her experiences with you. And once those two sharing sessions are over, we will open up the floor for questions. You can direct questions at me if you want to know anything general about the program, scholarships, opportunities, etc. Or you could also direct it specifically to Taufik or Ella if your question is more relevant for them. You can type your questions in the Q&A box in Zoom. Okay, some of those questions may be answered directly via text. But if the question is something that requires answering live, if it is more appropriate to be answered live, then we will answer it live. Okay, so without further ado, let me pass the time on to Taufik.
Prof. Rajesh, I'm having a bit of trouble with my Zoom. Can I leave and come
Oh,
back?
sure. Yeah,
Sorry about
then
it.
no problem at all. Then perhaps we can start with Ella if you're
Thank
ready.
you.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let me share the screen. Can you see my screen? Yeah. All right. Hi everyone. I'm Ella, and I'm a year 4 computer engineering student. I'm specializing in advanced electronic and IoT. So initially, when I choose computer engineering, I choose this because I want something that is both related to hardware and also software. And this is why I choose computer engineering. Yeah. So to if I want to summarize computer engineering itself, I think computer engineering is something that is challenging but fun. There's a lot of courses involving both theory and application. Even since year one, we are already involved in so many projects, starting with like Arduino, MBOT, then go towards like FPGA. I also had a chance to create robotic car that follows you around. And even in my capstone project, I was working in a group of four, where we were making a workout system in integrating wearable devices, AI, and also augmented reality. Throughout the courses in NUS, I am able to learn to use a lot of software that I use in industry, such as Cadence Virtuoso and Vivado, Vitis, and many more. And because computer engineering is under both CDE and SOC, there are actually many courses to choose from. And that is how I actually also learned a lot of knowledge, like 3D printing, where I was able to use it in my project, hardware design, both in analog and digital, PCB design, software programming, and there's ranging from the low level like assembly to a higher level that is closer to us like web design and application, mobile application. There's also a lot of teaching and research opportunities that I was able to get. Even in starting from my second year in university, I was able to become a grader and also a teaching assistant for some of the courses that I took beforehand, shared the knowledge that I learned to the juniors and even learn from them also. And there's also a lot of research opportunities. For example, currently I am researching on related to smartwatch on dental purposes, which is guided by two professors from two different faculties as well. Outside the classroom, I did internship As part of the curriculum, I did a one semester internship in AMD where I built a test system to test the new product that was coming, which is the new chip that was coming to AMD at that time. And for my year 3 to year 4 summer, I did an internship in ST engineering where I was a test engineer testing hardware related to 5G networking. And apart from all the curriculum, I was also able to build my skill and knowledge through a lot of many other things, such as student life. And one of the highlight was being part of NUS Team Bumblebee, where I was part of the electrical sub team. And as part of the electrical sub team, I built, develop, and test autonomous system, including those autonomous underwater vehicle, drone, service vessel, and all supporting system. Building these from scratch and also maintain and develop those that are developed by the seniors. I also had a chance to go overseas to compete in international competitions, for example, RoboSub 2025, which was held in the US last August. And other than this, there are a lot of student life that I was involved in, for example, NU Splitscrap, being part of the subcom and member also, which is an electronic repair CCA. And I was able to join multiple hackathons, both that are done by in NUS and outside NUS. Industry visit where I'm able to meet employers and people that are already working in many big companies. In fact, even in one of my courses, which is parallel computing, I was able to go to one of the biggest data center in Singapore, which is located actually near NUS. Then throughout my 4 years, I was also helping out with NUS Open House as a student ambassador, and this year I was helping out with the ECE workshop. In my year 1 summer, I did Orbital, which is an independent software development project where we created a mobile application, a marketplace that is using cryptocurrency. And student life isn't only those that are related to my major. There are more things such as those sport related, such as interfaculty games, the communities that help and support throughout my journey, and organization, student union that helped me to build my organization skill and leadership skill. And even in NUS hostel, I was part of the UTR, Youth on Residence Community Engagement Committee, where I was part of the committee that organized and organize volunteering and uh, go for a volunteering event. And I think throughout this journey in NUS, if one the key takeaway was to just explore and try new and many things. Do not be afraid of this mistake, because all this, even the mistake when we fixed all this, are also a learning process. And meet new people, meet more friends, even those outside your major, even outside your faculty. There are many interesting people out there, and create projects, even those that are interesting, join CCAs, and to remember to always have fun and enjoy. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ella, for that very elaborate sharing of your experience. Now, Taufik, are you okay
Yes,
with
I
your
am
technical
back.
stuff? Okay. So let's now listen to Taufik, who is graduating in a few weeks' time, about his experiences. Yeah.
Can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just a few things about me. So I'm a NUS Global Merit Scholar, and in my final year of doing my double degree in electrical engineering and economics. And I went for an exchange at Cambridge University, and I did my internship at Infineon Technologies. And I'll share more about these experiences later as we go along the presentation. So for me, basically, I think something I like to share is why I chose electrical engineering in the first place. So I find that ever since young, I like to tinker around and find out how stuff works. So I already knew that I wanted to go into some form of engineering. And for me, why I chose EE in particular is the broad range of topics and opportunities that are available to be explored within EE. So even if you go in within the first 2 years, you'll take modules on energy systems, you'll take modules on electronics. So it gives you the scope to find out which area within EE you are really interested in. And in general, I think electronics, it dictates a lot of our life. So it does give you the opportunity to really kind of explore which exact area you want to work on. And there are many, many avenues to work on. So for academic life, I just wanted to share a bit about maybe some of the concerns some of us might have. So usually a lot of people do say that the transition from JC or poly or high school to university can be quite daunting. And this is mainly because there's a lot of independence and initiative required because unlike school, there may not be a teacher to really check through your progress, make sure you are really following through with everything. And sometimes the content can feel quite rushed because the semesters are short and there's quite a lot of long breaks in between. But on the flip side, you can also see that this gives you the freedom to explore a lot of things. So I think NUS by the way they structure their programs, they do give you a lot of freedom to explore in terms of even within the degree, you can do second majors, you can do minors, or even in like my case, you can do a whole other degree. And they've made it more and more flexible as time has gone on. So definitely, I would say that there is a lot of avenue to really just explore. And like Ella also mentioned, there's so many things you can sign up for, whether it's hackathons, competitions, optional internships, etc. So for me, I'd like to share a bit about my exchange program. So I did my exchange program at Cambridge, and behind me is the Bridge of Sighs where Lee Kuan Yew and his wife took a photo. So generally, exchange programs are very much valued by employers because it shows some sort of independence. You're exposed to different cultures and working with people from different backgrounds. So apart from the fun aspect of it, there's also a very practical aspect that goes into the CV as well. And you also get to experience different education systems, especially in a lot of these global universities where so many people from so many countries come together. And NUS has an extensive network of partners all across the globe. So really, you can find universities in the US, Canada, in Europe, in the UK, even places like Japan and Korea, India, and a lot of these places, in a lot of these places, usually academics comes secondary. And maybe I shouldn't say this in front of a professor, but it does give you a lot of space to go and have fun because the grades transferred back are on a pass-fail basis, so it doesn't affect your GPA in any way. So it gives you a lot of time to kind of settle in and explore everything else apart from the academics as well. And as for internship, I think for poly students it's not compulsory, but it is a good place to see how you can apply what you learn in the classroom. So I think a lot of times when you go through university, sometimes it feels like you're learning a lot of theory, and internship is one of those places where you can really get to apply this knowledge, and you also gain an understanding of the industry, and you improve your communication working with people around you. So for me, in Infineon, I was building a battery monitoring system. So this little chip over here is able to measure the voltage of battery cells, as well as you can connect temperature sensors to it, and it will report the readings over to this red color microcontroller, which then processes these instructions and sends it over to this user interface, which shows you live temperature and voltage readings. And I think it's very interesting to see how stuff that you learn across different modules in university can be applied to a single project, because this one, it required a lot of programming. It required an understanding of circuits, how to debug circuits, how to use scopes to kind of find out what is going wrong or what is going right. So it definitely is a good experience. And I think I'll just end off with some tips. So I think the main thing is to manage commitments and time. Of course, despite the freedom that you have at university, I think it's important to also pace yourself out because it's quite easy to get burnt out as well. And another tip I would say is to not procrastinate tutorial exercises. I know sometimes it can feel very heavy and you don't want to do it, but you just set aside an hour or two each week. It can help you really just at least keep up with the content and understand what's going on in class. So, and you'll really thank yourself at the end of the semester when you have to review your content. And the third thing is to not be afraid to ask for help. Like I mentioned, there's not anyone really looking after you, but there are so many avenues for you to seek help, whether that's through professors, friends. NUS also has a wellness team and a counseling service, and there are peer student supporters which who you can go and speak to if your problems are a bit more maybe towards a particular age group, and you only feel comfortable confiding in people around your age. And I think something which Ella mentioned as well is just to try to make the most of your 3 to 4 years at NUS, whether this is through CCAs, exchange, internships, projects, competitions, hackathons, etc. I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Taufik, again, for that insightful sharing of your experience as well as advice for your juniors. Okay, now let's get on to the Q&A session. Yeah, good to see that there are already a few questions. Well, some of them are a bit difficult to answer, but we will attempt it because those are, very fine admin details, which, I may not have full experience or visibility in. But yeah, let me give it a try. So I will start with the first question. I'm a poly student, and if I take my exemption of 20 UE units and I take an additional internship, would that internship count towards my GPA? Okay, first of all, internships generally don't count towards GPA. They are graded on a pass-fail basis. Okay, but I assume that your question was more along the lines of whether it will count towards graduation, right? The answer is that yes, it does, but there are some things that you need to look out for. For example, as a student who is coming in from poly, you are getting 10 units of exemption from industrial attachment, okay, which is EG 3611A. But that's not the only internship course you have. There are two more possibilities: vacation internship program 3612, and then there is an internship offered by the Center for Future Ready Graduates, which is 4 credits. So that 6 plus 4, 10 can also be used. In fact, there is a total cap of 20 units for internships. So you have already used up 10 because you are getting an exemption. So you can take another 10 units of internships through EG 3612 vacation internship program and the CFG equivalent, which I can't remember the course code for. So you can do 2 summers and get 2 internships totaling to 6 units. 6 plus 4, 10 units. Yep. So that's generally how it will work. I have never really heard of any person from poly background doing internship during the semester time, okay, which may be ill-advised because it almost certainly will cause your graduation to be delayed. And you can get meaningful experiences over summer, like you can do it over 2 summer, and then you won't have to delay your graduation. Yeah, I hope that more or less answers that question. The second question is something that perhaps you guys can answer. For students that are not very well off, what is the minimum specs and most valued for money laptop you can recommend comfortably to complete the whole undergraduate program? Okay, before I pass the time on to Taufik or Ella, whoever wants to continue this, it's very hard to recommend one specific model because there are just too many in the market, right? And it's also a bit weird that we are living in a time where the prices change every day, right? We are seeing one of the most volatile scenario for hardware with respect to prices. Like if you ask for a quotation now, the companies don't really give 1 week validity for the quotation because the prices are just too volatile. Thanks to the hardware crunch or the hardware shortage or demand that is brought in by AI. So for many companies, many hardware companies, their complete production output for the next 2 years are already booked. Like for example, for companies like Seagate, Western Digital, the next 2 years is completely booked. They are the ones creating memory and drives, which is also a good thing for us because, getting into electrical or computer engineering, it fits nicely with the current demand. But of course, a word of caution, by the time you graduate, it may be 4 years or 6 years, depending on, your gender and nationality. Nobody can predict what will be the scenario in 4 to 6 years down the line. If somebody tells you in a very, very confident, very authoritative manner, he or she probably doesn't know what he is talking about. Yeah. Now, Tawfiq and Ella, since you have a lived experience with being an undergraduate student, perhaps you can give a piece of advice or two.
I'm not very sure actually because I, I I don't know. I mean, before coming in, I think
Yeah.
someone mentioned that maybe try to get a laptop with 16 GB RAM,
Uh-huh.
ideally because it helps in programming and running a lot of
Yes.
programs. But
Yes.
in the current situation, I don't know if that's the go-to advice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say 16 GB is probably the minimum you should go for.
Yeah.
If you can go for, I mean, in this age of AI, especially if you want to run local models on your laptop, uh, the biggest factor you are looking at is indeed the RAM,
Mm.
and the more the
Yeah.
merrier.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're looking for value for money, then I think
Uh,
you should constrain your search to 60 GB.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think you need to run local models on your laptop.
Uh,
Yeah, and try to not get Mac because it
oh,
might be hard for some of the module actually.
yeah.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
was hoping that one of you will say that. Yeah,
Yeah, because I don't use Mac, so I'm not so
yeah,
sure. But I have
Yeah,
heard
same.
that
I'm also
some
not
of the,
using Mac.
especially the first year students, they struggle a little bit. Some of the
yes.
programs in terms of downloading.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of you are absolutely right. Please do not get a Mac, especially if you want to have a comfortable time with courses such as EE 2026 Digital Design, CG 3207 Computer Architecture, EE 4218 Embedded Hardware System Design, etc. Because the software we use works only in Windows and Linux. Okay, so please do not get a Mac if you want a smooth time. But having said that, of course, we have computers in the lab, and you should be able to drop by the lab and get your stuff done. But if you want to, for example, save yourself the trouble and be able to do it anywhere and everywhere you like, it is perhaps a good idea to get a standard laptop that is non-Mac laptop.
I think a lot of people use Lenovo ThinkPads and a lot of
Mhm.
companies also use them. So I think it's
Yes.
worth taking a look at also.
Yeah, but they are not cheap.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I'm also using a Lenovo, but it's lasted
Uh,
really well. So I think you have
yes.
to, because I've used it for 5 years and it's not slowed
Mhm.
down even a little bit. So
Mhm.
it's worth looking at in terms of a long-term investment as well.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of how robust the hardware is, ThinkPad is probably the best out there, at least from a non-Mac territory. Of course, if you look at the raw hardware merit, I would say nothing beats a MacBook. Uh, but unfortunately, the OS could be problematic when it comes to running certain software. But yeah, if you want something that is a long-term investment, I completely agree with Taufik, get a ThinkPad. But if you're on a tight budget, there are cheaper options out there. Lenovo has other series that are cheap. Dell also has it. But whatever you get, please ask for student discounts. Like for Lenovo and Dell, there are very heavy discounts if you're a student. If you register in their website using your NUS ID, you get very substantial discounts. Like for Lenovo's, it's at least 10-15%. And one tip for some companies, if you actually just chat with a customer service officer and ask for additional vouchers or codes, discount codes, you may get it. So don't have a thick skin and don't hesitate to ask. Yeah. Now, third question, which I don't have a very authentic knowledge of. It's regarding orbital CP2106. Ella might know better. because she's a computer engineering student, and many or most computer engineering students, I believe, end up doing CP2106. Okay, it's a project that allows you to do some exploratory projects, mostly software projects. It is offered by the School of Computing. For CG students, it's quite easy because you have two homes. One of them is School of Computing. But if you are doing electrical engineering, you are considered an outsider in School of Computing for the most part. So you may not be having a high priority for those courses that are offered by School of Computing, okay, including CP2106. So it's pretty much a requirement to pair up with some SOC student, which I think can also be a CEG student.
I
But
think actually my partner is someone from business school, so it's not even a computing student as well. And I know a lot of people from electrical engineering also doing CP2106. But yeah, the announcement will be around in year one, like in end of sem one or around semester two. There will be email and we can register from there, which is in the form of proposal to submit. So I think they will be choosing from that side, from the proposal, and also it might be prioritized for SOC student. But if you have a partner from SOC, then that will be great also.
yeah, so you can pair up with a CEG or CS student,
Yeah.
and you should get the required priority. Yeah, but yeah, plenty of students from all over, and from a lot of different faculties and colleges do take CP2106. It's super popular. Now the next question is related. It's about CP2107. For CP2107, I would say it would be even harder for a non-computing or computer engineering student. Because you require, if I'm not wrong, a supervisor from SOC to register for it. Okay, SOC may not prioritize you, and the good news is it's actually not necessary. Whatever you do in CP2107 can also be done in CDE as a Europe or Eurex project. Okay, we have undergraduate research opportunities program or undergraduate research experience. Okay, both of which are designed to give you that research experience. So plenty of our students do take it. Some of them do pure software stuff, which could very well fit under CP2107, but there is no need to, because you can do it as Europe or Eurex. But if you're a CEG student, CP2107 by all means should be easy. But plenty of CEG students also take it under CDE as Europe or Eurex. I have mentored quite a few CEG students for undergraduate research projects.
Actually, in adding in, I think there's one thing. If you want to just try research without any unit, you can also approach any professor, because that's what I'm doing currently.
Yeah, very, very good point, Ella. Indeed, if you are not after credit, and one point to note is that if you use up your credits for all these, you will run out of UEs if you want to use it for your specialization, second major, minor, etc. But having said that, there's no rule saying that you cannot take more than 160 units. In fact, I know students who took 200 plus units, even though they were required to take only 160. Taking courses, registering formally for courses just out of interest. But plenty of students take courses without formally registering too. For example, for my courses like computer architecture, every semester I get on an average 4 to 5 students attending my classes, even though they are not formally in the course. They do it purely out of interest, not for credit. So nothing stops you from doing that for courses or for research. Now, next question. What is the minimum criteria for an EE student to do a second major or minor in computing? I understand that they have to do well for CS 1010E, but how about a minimum grade for CS 1010X? Okay, so if you miss the boat with respect to having it at the point of admission, the next point you can apply for it is at the end of second year. By the way, this applies only for electrical engineering. For computer engineering, a second major in computing is not possible. Yeah, because of, well, too much overlap. Even for electrical engineering students, until recently, a second major in computing was not possible because, again, there is some overlap between electrical engineering and computing. Courses such as digital systems, computer architecture, networks, all of them are overlapping. But that's partly why we have this newly curated program, which is offered by ECE department, which makes it available for electrical engineering students as well. Now, going to the specifics of the question, you can apply at the end of second year. We will look at your GPA as well as your grade in computing relevant courses, such as CS1010E. It's mentioned as CS1010E because that's a guaranteed course that all engineering students will take. All non-computer engineering students will take. But if you have taken any other variant of it, the grade of that will also be considered. Okay. We don't have a very fixed requirement, but we recommend that you get a good grade. I would say, something like a B plus would be highly desirable. If you really struggled in CS 1010, perhaps the second major in computing may also be a bit challenging for you. But yeah, of course, everyone has a bad day. It could have been your bad day during the exam that day. So you can always try and, well, try your case, or build your case. So for example, if you have taken other computing relevant courses and if you have scored well, you can highlight those as well when you put in your application for second major or minor. Okay, like many students from EE and even other CD departments do take courses such as CS 2040, etc. CS 2030 or 2040 is more popular, I would say, even without formally registering for a second major or minor in computing. Next question, what if I take, give me a moment. What if I take 20 UE units exemption but still take additional electives? Would that still count towards your GPA? Okay, the answer is yes. Anything and everything that you do not SU will count towards your GPA. Okay, as long as it's a letter graded course. What that means is that, okay, before that, maybe you guys have some idea of what SU means. So you get a certain quota of SUs, which can be used to change a letter grade that you don't like on your transcript into an S grade. S grade is nothing but a tick mark to show that you have satisfied the requirement, but you don't want the grade for that to be counted towards your GPA. This is mainly applicable only for those first year or equivalent courses without prerequisites. Like for example, CS 1010 can be SU'd. Okay, so if you are not happy with the grade you got, you can convert it to an S. As long as you pass the course, that is, as long as you get at least a D grade in that course. So that has its finite quota, and you cannot use beyond the quota of SUs. The other scenario in which you can have some SU equivalent stuff is when you go on exchange. So when you do an exchange program, the grades that you get in your partner university can be used for meeting your graduation requirements back in NUS. But the exact letter grade will not be used for your GPA computation. Yeah, but outside your standard SU plus exchange, everything else that is letter graded will count towards your GPA, even if you take above the minimum requirement. Okay, now electrical engineering and computer engineering has many similar modes. What is the key difference between EE and CEG? Are there certain jobs which only take CEG graduates or EE graduates? Okay, the answer is a bit nuanced, but with respect to similarities and differences, I'm not sure if either of you want to go first or should I?
I think you can go first because you've
Okay.
taught both.
Okay, yeah,
Both
yeah.
sets of students here.
Yeah, I teach both electrical engineering and computer engineering students. So yeah, you are right to note that there is a fair bit of overlap. In fact, most of the hardware or almost all the hardware courses that CEG students take have their equivalents in EE as well. Okay, for example, you have circuits, digital design, microcontrollers or computer organization equivalent. Then you have signals and systems. Then you have your EPP, engineering principles and practices, which again have some differences between CEG and EE, but there are quite a bit of similarities as well. So you can see there are, yeah, quite a bit of overlap when it comes to hardware or electrical related courses. But there are some courses that are substantially different between EE and CEG. For example, EE students take a course on power systems, power electronics related stuff. Then there is a course on electromagnetics. Then what else? There is a course on analytical methods in electrical engineering.
I think CEG also takes some form of equivalent because usually they need some stats background.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
we're not required to. We're not required to,
Oh,
but
now it's no
a
longer
lot of
a
people, yeah,
requirement. It used to
yeah,
be in the past, but now
But
it's
I
no
think a
longer.
lot of modudes do need some requirement.
correct.
I think ST two
Two, three,
something.
three, four. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
So it's
I think.
the equivalent of EE 2012.
Yeah,
So it's still
agree.
a lot of overlap.
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, some of these courses, especially related to electromagnetics and power, those two are the two fields which I would say are not quite CEG, but which comes under core EE, power electronics and electromagnetics. Okay, most other topics do have overlap, like communication systems, networks, uh, electromagnetics, robotics, sorry, not electromagnetics, robotics and control, circuit design, uh, signals, all of those, machine intelligence, all of them are quite overlapped. Now, when it comes to CEG, two, three courses or three, four courses that are not having its equivalents in EE, at least not as a core requirement, are uh, uh, you have discrete
Yeah.
structures, then you have operating systems, then there is CS 2040C, which is data structures and algorithms, and then software engineering and object-oriented programming. So those are the courses that are not mandatory or not core for EE. But the fact is that many EE students do take some of these courses as electives. Like for example, there are EE students who take CES 2106, which is somewhat equivalent to CG 2271. It's operating systems. And in fact, we do have an elective for operating systems in our list, though it's currently not offered, but it may come back, which is EE 4214. Okay, which is real-time embedded systems, which is mostly an OS course. And like I mentioned earlier, many EE students do take CS 2040 anyway to understand algorithms and data structures better, which can be useful for software programming in real life as well as for finding a job. I mean, for your projects as well as for finding a job. Yeah, software engineering is not typically taken by EE students per se, unless they are doing a second major or minor in computing. But having said that, many of the software engineering concepts that are taught in 2103 can be picked up on your own by doing your own projects. Okay, and many EE students do that. Like more than half the students who do final year projects with me from EE do purely software projects. And many of the software engineering concepts do come in, so you learn through practice. like proper versioning, using proper patterns, using the various project management and versioning tools, etc., etc. So these are stuff you pick up along the way, even if you don't do a formal course. Now, with respect to jobs, the answer is yes, especially for some specific jobs. Like, for example, in order to uh, get certified as a professional engineer who is dealing with electrical installations, you may actually need an electrical engineering degree. With computer engineering degree, it may be harder, though you can make a case if you are working in that sector and if you have experience in that sector. But by default, it may be a bit difficult to become a professional engineer certifying electrical installations if your degree is in computer engineering. Okay, the other way around is less true. In fact, electrical engineering students can apply for most jobs that computer engineering students apply to as well. Though, some lazy HR people may reject your application based on, the degree title. Like, for example, some HR may be very, very focused on, okay, computer engineering or computer science. And then when they see electrical engineering, there could be rejection. But I would say, such cases are a minority, not a majority. Like, we have electrical engineering students going on to become pure software engineers with, no additional second major, minor, etc. Like 2 years ago, my student got into Google as a my FIP student got into Google as a software engineer. She has absolutely no second major, minor, whatever in computing, pure electrical engineering degree. And this is just an example, but there are plenty of others.
I think a lot of it depends on projects and
Yeah,
internships that you do as
exactly.
well. Yeah. A lot
Yeah.
of it can be learned through, and I think when you publish your CV, of course, you will put all the projects you do. So
Mm.
people will know what kind of skills you have developed throughout your time there. So I wouldn't say the name of the degree itself is super important, but yeah, like Prof mentioned, I think there is a flexibility and there's a lot of overlap between both.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very important point, Taufik. In fact, beyond lazy HRs, especially if you get to the point where your hiring committee, the actual technical committee that is looking at hiring, or your potential reporting manager, once they see your CV, they care less about what is a degree. They care less about what are the grades you got. As long as it's decent, like, if it is 2 point something or early threes, it may not look very good. But as long as it's closer to 4 or above 4 GPA, people generally don't really care too much about whether it's, plus or minus 0.5 or even a bit higher. They care much more about what you bring to the table. Okay, so whether you're showing the right learning attitude, and even in your CV, you can express it in various ways. Um, by being authentic, by showing or highlighting, the various plus points you have. Then, of course, these days, whenever there is a software aspect to the job, it's a very standard practice to ask for your GitHub portfolio, right? And those things tell more about you than what is on your transcript or your degree scroll. I mean, I myself, if I'm hiring somebody to get some job done, I will not care about whether the person is from, as long as it's something technical, I don't care whether it's mechanical or electrical or computer science or whatever. I will care more about the projects they have done, the hackathons and other activities they have participated in, and hope even better if they have helped in organizing those. Yeah, those are the things that speak for you, not so much your title. Ella, anything more to add from your side?
Mm. I think mostly, yeah, like you say, mostly is from the project and all. Like
Mm.
me as a computer engineering, actually, I never get an interview from software engineering also because a lot of my background is in electrical. So, yeah, and it depends on how you take your project, how you take your courses towards the end later lah. Not only in the end, but how you arrange everything, how you want to go about in taking your degree. It doesn't have to be based on the electrical engineering
Mm.
or computer engineering degree that you have as well.
But I think
Okay.
something worth looking at is the specializations that both offer.
Mm.
I think that might give you a good idea of maybe which are the areas that both. I'm sure there's some specializations that overlap, but
Yes.
but there are a lot of there are a number of specializations which maybe only EE can do or only CEG can do. So that might be worth some. That might be something you can look at if you are still having trouble deciding between the two.
Yeah, I agree. You can look at specializations. Like, for example, sustainable electric
Yeah,
transportation is
yeah,
not available for CEG,
yeah. I thought so.
right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, good point. Yep. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Can a student deviate from recommended schedule and, for example, take CS 1010E during special term instead of normal semester time so that they can do other modules during normal semester? The answer is a big yes, but with a big catch. Yes, as long as you meet the requirements for your degree, you get your degree. Nobody cares about which semester you took a particular course in. Okay, but there are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. Number one, generally for a particular course, if the course has a cap, and many or most courses do have some enrollment cap, the priority always goes to those who have it in their recommended semester. Okay, for example, if CS 1010E is recommended for you in SEM 1, but if you delay it to SEM 5, for example, okay, you may not get the same priority as those who are doing it in their SEM 1. Okay, then you will have to go through the process of, you may be able to apply for it only in a later enrollment round because enrollment happens in like round 0, round 1, round 2, and so on. And then you may have to end up appealing, crying and begging to get that particular course in the semester you want. Okay, because we have logistical limit and manpower limitations, right? So that may limit the number of students for a particular course in a particular semester to a particular number. Yeah. The second point you need to note is that many of these courses, especially those level 1 or level 2 courses, are prerequisites for higher level courses. Okay, so if you take it in a semester that is not your recommended semester, and if it is late, it could mean that your ability to take those courses that it depends on, that is, those courses which have this particular course that you're delaying as a prerequisite, those could also get delayed. You might even end up not being able to take it. Like, for example, if you try for CS 1010E in your SEM 5, you did not get it. SEM 6, you did not get it. SEM 7, you have a higher probability of getting it because if you're closer to your graduation, the administration is a bit more sympathetic, because you really need it to graduate, right? So let's say you ended up taking it in SEM 7 and you wanted to take a course that depends on CS 1010E, which is also offered only in odd semesters. Then it's too late for you. You can't take it in SEM 8 because it's not offered in SEM 8. So these are all some considerations that you need to have in mind. While there is flexibility, you have to look at real life constraints as well.
I think taking modules in special term also you need to pay more fees, right, during the special term to take.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so maybe that's something you can consider as well if you're thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, special semester involves a certain payment, but again, depending on the exact time of the, time of the year, there are some years in which it may be waived, etc. And even otherwise, the amount involved is not so high. The last time I checked, it was only a few hundreds. But yeah, still, yeah. Thanks, Tawfiq, for bringing that in. There is certainly an element of money involved if you take stuff in special semester. But there are some terms like, if you graduate within 4 years, you may get it waived, etc., etc. The exact policies do keep changing with, with the year. It may be different year to year. Okay, next question is, while I understand the benefits of SU, are there any disadvantages to SUing courses such as CS 1010E? Maybe you guys can share your perspective first.
I don't think so because I think in terms of admissions into programs, they NUS of course has records of your non-SU grade, so they can still look at it. So I think even if let's say maybe the first year you are trying to keep a perfect GPA and you get an A minus for CS 1010E and you SU it, so I think they will still look at the A minus and they'll still give it to you. As for career prospects, I think like we mentioned, I don't know how much they really look at your transcript like grade by grade. I think they just want to see overall how you perform, and as long as you can show through your projects and your general grade that you are someone who's quite competent, I think it should be okay.
Yeah,
I
I would
think
say it's
adding, yeah.
sorry. Yeah, Ella, go ahead.
Yeah, I think adding on before like SUing, I think for example like exchange might need to see your grade before SU, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so you
Yes.
might not want to SU some stuff or to like just do badly on some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There are some circumstances where the pre-SU grade may still matter. Like, for example, if you are applying for a second major in computing, we will look at your grade pre-SU. It won't be counted towards your GPA, but for other purposes like this, it may end up being used. Yes, even though it doesn't appear on your transcript as the original letter grade. And depending on who is looking at your transcript, Taufik is right that to be honest, most people won't really have the time or patience to go through every single grade in your transcript. But if your hiring manager is very meticulous about all these stuff, he or she may look into and may ask you, why did you use SU for this particular course? Did you struggle in that? Yeah. Next question. May I ask what are the modules and technical electives which I should take in EE to prepare me for uh, the professional engineering, and will I be less prepared for these exams compared to my peers in NTU with a power specialization since I do not have a power specialization? Okay, well, while we do not have a specialization called power electronics or power systems, sustainable electric transportation does have a very heavy power flavor to it. So if you take those courses related to that, you will get a fairly solid foundation in power electronics. Okay, so we have some really wonderful faculty members who are also in power electronics, like Prof. Sanjeev Panda, Prof. Akshay Rathod. Then for power systems, we have Prof. Deepthi. Uh, then yeah, power electronics, we have Prof. YC Liang. So these are all very, very accomplished people in the field of power electronics. So you could do research projects with them. You could take their specific courses, even if you don't want a specialization. Like, many of the electives out there are not parked under specific specializations. They are free and easy for you to take. Okay, so you could take specific courses and get a competence that is equivalent to your peers in NTU who may be doing it in under a structured specialization. Yeah.
I think just to add on to what
Yeah.
Prof. Rajesh said also, I think sometimes you may not necessarily need a specialization in anything. Sometimes you can really just take any module that you feel is interesting to you and just graduate with a generic degree. I think it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I think it just show what are your competencies through your other aspects as well. And I think like he mentioned, even though there's a lot of modules under sustainable electric transportation, if you feel like some of those modules are not really aligned with what you want to do in the future, you can always just choose not to pursue a specialization, because I'm not really sure how much specializations are valued. But of course, it does show a level of competency in that field. But at the end of the day, I do believe that you don't really need a specialization when you go out.
Wonderful point, Taufik. I completely agree with you. And this is a strictly personal opinion. This doesn't reflect the opinion of the department. But if I were in many of your positions, I wouldn't bother with a specialization. I will just take the courses I want rather than trying to fit under a particular banner or specialization or whatever. I mean, that's me. I'm not saying that is a right way for you. Everyone has their own thought process, and thankfully NUS does accommodate all those variety of thought processes. And even a basic electrical engineering degree is actually good enough for you to apply for PEng, to be a professional engineer. And to become a professional engineer, you need to pass a certain exam anyway. And that exam has a prescribed syllabus. And there are also training and coaching sessions that are conducted by Institution of Engineers Singapore. So even if you haven't taken the exact course that is required for that, I mean, what is a big deal? You can always pick up. I mean, come on, be realistic. Many of you will end up learning the whole course in 2-3 days before the exam anyway, right? Okay, I'm not encouraging you to do that. For courses with heavy CA components, you might suffer if that is your strategy. But for final exam heavy courses, well, if you are confident and good enough, it's possible. I have done that before. Yeah. I mean, I used to really enjoy courses that I liked, and other courses were just a tick mark in my transcript. Okay, now speaking of special term, I understand students that are struggling or lagging behind can take modules during special term. What are the common modules that EE students can take should they struggle and need to pace out their workload? Okay, the exact list of courses offered during special semester varies. It may not be that standard every special semester. You can actually find it in places like NUS Mods. It will tell you, which semester a particular course is offered. But this can vary. Like for example, I have offered my course EE4218 one time during special semester, but I generally don't. So it depends on the availability of staff, the specific circumstances, etc. But there are at least 3-4 courses, if I'm not wrong, offered over special sem 1 and 2, which are EE coded. There are some in CS and some in other departments, etc. So it's all possible, but you need to look out, you need to plan appropriately.
I'm not sure if the level 2000 modules are offered during special term. Are they? Usually they're not, right? It's usually the higher level
Generally, no.
ones.
Yeah,
So
generally it's
yeah.
elective modules that are offered. Yeah,
So there's
absolutely
nothing
right. Yeah.
which I don't think there's any common modules that you can take during special term.
Mhm.
And also it's also hard to pace out because it's hard to plan ahead because you don't know for that particular year because NUS mods only publishes at the start of the academic year.
Yeah,
So you don't know
correct.
if let's say I want to take something I'm in year one now, I want to take something in year two special term. I don't know if that's being offered. So it's not something which I think anyone would encourage anyone to think about. Just try your best first.
Agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
And then see how it develops as it goes on.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
don't put all your eggs in that basket yet.
absolutely. Yeah, that brings me to a very, very important point. Don't just go with a plan A, have a plan B for everything as well. Like what if the course you wanted to get is oversubscribed and you simply did not get it? You should have a plan B.
But I think some people do go to summer school. Like
Uh-huh.
I had a friend who went to Korea for summer school and he cleared,
Mhm.
I think CG 2023 over there.
Mhm.
So it's an avenue you can look out for. Yeah. So it is special term, but you're not doing it in Singapore, you're doing it elsewhere. So that's another avenue you can look out for.
Again, excellent point. In fact, this was a hack that was mentioned by someone during the sharing session this open day. That some courses, like for example, if you are not somebody who is very good at descriptive writing, so there are courses that require you to write a story, be good at writing. So it's possible for you to take it, for example, in summer school or map it away during exchange, etc. Or if you are struggling to get a particular course in NUS for whatever reason, it may be a feasible option to get it in the partner university and map it back.
And if you actually don't want to go overseas, there's also local exchange like SUSEP that allows you to exchange to NTU, SUTD, and all other local universities. Yeah.
Was the hot thing during COVID because it was the only thing people go for.
True.
Lucky that's not the only option now.
Yep.
Yep. While I understand, okay, next question. While I understand that our UEs can technically bid for any modules if we meet the prerequisites, I thought we need to declare it in our second major minor or minor to stand a decent chance of bidding it, especially for popular modules. There is some truth to it that we will always prioritize those who really need it above those who are taking it, as out of interest or out of fun or whatever, right? So for example, if you are taking a course which is listed under a second major or minor or specialization, it will be prioritized for those who are taking those. Okay, so that is indeed a reality. But having said that, for the vast majority of technical electives, level 3, level 4 courses, getting them at least within ECE department is generally not a problem. Okay, there are one or two here and there. Now everyone is after AI and machine learning. So there is a bit of a crowd in those kind of courses. But for vast majority of courses out there, getting the course of your choice at elective level is usually okay.
Yeah.
Things are a bit harder usually for level 1, level 2 courses where the enrollments are super high and we have to put a very strict gap.
And I think for level 1, level 2, usually they do already at the start of the module, at the start of the year, they do allocate it to you. So I think one good advice would be not to drop it. Just follow the recommended schedule for those at least, because I think those are quite hard to, if you drop it, it's quite hard to take it another. I mean, you can take it another semester, but I think you'd rather just forego the headache that comes with trying to fit it in somewhere in your timetable. Yeah, but like Prof said, I think the level 3, level 4, at least from what I've tried to apply for, it's quite easy to get into. You don't really need, like for me, I'm not specializing in anything, but I still could get into some.
Yep. Okay, hearing that some modules may be offered in certain semesters or academic years, will there be cases where people cannot fulfill their degree graduation requirements, specialization, second majors, minors, etc.? Okay, with respect to basic graduation requirement to get your degree, it's very unlikely that you will end up in a situation where you had to extend a semester simply because you couldn't get a course. Okay, as long as you made reasonable efforts in your final semester, and if it is required, final year, and if it is required for your graduation, you will most likely get it. Okay, those who end up delaying their graduation because they didn't complete a course are generally those who have taken that course and failed it in the past, or those who were totally, not doing their job and realized only just close to graduation that there is one course that they really should have taken but did not take it. But those are very rare cases, and if you end up in that situation, I'm sorry to say you deserve it.
I think it's also something which is important to note is that most modules are offered in both semesters across all the years. Because I think what we were discussing just now was during the special term, which is during the summer holiday. So if you just look at the regular semesters, usually most of the modules are always offered during both. Only when you go up higher for the level 3 or level 4 modules, it can get maybe either semester 1 or semester 2. But most of the level 1, level 2 modules are always offered during semester 1 and semester 2. So I wouldn't say this is a really big worry, and you don't really have to worry about this much. It's only very specialized cases and only for special term where sometimes things are offered and sometimes they're not.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
actually, I think even for like specialization, minor and second major, there are more than like what you need. There are more module than what you need that you can take. So even if you cannot take one module, there's other module that you can also take in place of that.
Agree. For
Yeah.
most majors, minors, and specializations, there could be, let's say, 2 compulsory courses, and then you have a basket of courses from which you have to take 3.
Mm.
So even if you get one, don't get one, you can always take another one. May not be to your satisfaction, may not be exactly what you wanted, but hey, this is real world. You don't always get what you want.
But generally, I would say
Hmm.
because of the prioritization
Yeah.
system that NUS has, I wouldn't say it's that bad.
Yeah.
I think most of the time you should be able to get what you want because they do have a score where they multiply your year followed by whether you have any special requirements for graduating with this module and with a bunch of other stuff. So there's some big algorithm behind it. So usually you should be fine. It's not a first come first serve basis
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I haven't heard of too many complaints saying, oh, I couldn't get this because I couldn't get this course. I mean, I couldn't get this specialization or second major because I couldn't get this course. Very rarely, if ever, happens. But of course, like I mentioned earlier, do your planning appropriately, right? Like for example, if you have to take a certain number of courses in your final semester, but you haven't met the prerequisites, then it's really, your planning failure. Next question. I'm not good in coding, but better in circuit analysis and power related modules in Poly. Will I be suitable for EE since it is so similar to CEG? Okay, the answer again is a bit nuanced. I would say it's very hard to do or become a good electrical engineer too without having any flair for programming at all. Because let's say even for hardware design, well, you code in Verilog or Spice, etc., etc. They look a bit different from conventional programming languages, but they still involve some level of coding. Even for circuit analysis, a lot of stuff is done through simulations, right? You don't really experiment or learn things by always patching up circuits. A lot of it is done in simulations, and that requires you to, write your test scripts, whatever. So I would say we are living in a time where coding is the language of engineering, right? Um, no matter which engineering you go into, coding is important, especially so for electrical engineering. But there is a good news. Okay, I'm somebody who loves programming. Okay, that's my way of stress relief in a way. Whenever I feel like an imposter, whenever I feel stressed, I write a program. When it runs, I feel good about myself, right? It lifts my spirits. But I haven't written a program in 1 year plus because it's hard to justify writing a program these days when LLMs are out there doing it for you. Okay, so as long as you know what you are doing, you know how to prompt it properly, and as long as you have the domain knowledge and the logic uh, and expertise to evaluate the output that LLM tools give you, you don't have to write everything from scratch. You just need to guide the tool properly. Of course, you need to know what you want. You need to know whether the tool is giving you the right thing. You need to ask the right questions. You need to verify the output. Uh, and all this requires domain knowledge. You can't simply do it, without having the foundational fundamental concepts.
But
But
I will say, like Prof. Rajesh said, with LLMs, with generative AI, it's less important to be able to write code and more important to be able to check the output, make sure it works. Because even on internship, for me, I only learned Python from CS1010E before I went for internship. But at internship, I had to code in C. So a lot of it I learned from a lot of it I learned from ChatGPT. I did prompt engineering with ChatGPT, ask it to write for me code, then I'll check through and I'll try to make sure that it works. So I would say it's not as big of a concern now. And in terms of electrical engineering, I think most of the modules don't necessarily integrate coding into it. So there's CS 1010E. Then there's I think you have to take one on machine learning, which is just very basic Python programming. Is EE 2211. Then there's both EE 2026 and 2028, which is digital design and microcontroller programming. So if after all of this you still don't feel confident, I would say at least you can take those modules. For example, you can take a specialization in, say, advanced electronics or sustainable electric transportation that maybe doesn't have as much of a coding component in it. So I think the importance of coding, as in terms of just you sitting there writing code, has diminished a lot. But I would say that I think CS 1010E does give you a good introduction into programming as a whole. So I would say don't worry about being good or not so good at programming right now. Maybe just go through with it. And I think it does sometimes when you go through CS 1010E, it might not be as enjoyable, but I'm sure that at the end of it you will come out with some understanding and some appreciation.
Yeah. You'll probably have some scars to show. but, but they are good to have.
Yeah.
I think a few other courses also have more programming now. Like I think EE 2023 also has some simulation components now.
Oh, okay.
And many of the electives do have some kind of programming or coding.
But it's a
yeah,
lot
like
easier now, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about small syntactical stuff
Yes,
or those
yes.
kind of stuff.
You just
A
need to make
larger,
sure that, yeah, just need to make sure that the flow,
yeah.
like pseudocode.
Mm.
It's like
Yeah.
reading pseudocode now, yeah.
Yeah, the larger level, a higher
Yeah.
level overview should be there, of course. Yeah. Yeah, that's why, it was, I think, a year or so ago that Jensen Huang mentioned, right, that, the conventional wisdom of teaching coding in schools probably isn't relevant anymore because now the language for programming a computer is human language. You just need to ask the right questions and be able to verify the responses.
But I think to verify, you still need that little
Yes.
bit of knowledge, yeah. So
Yes.
definitely 1010E helped a lot with that because it's quite applicable to different languages and different programming languages as well. So it does help a lot.
Mhm.
Python is a good stepping stone,
Mhm.
soft landing.
Okay, I guess we will end with the two questions that are still left. If you have any newer questions, in the interest of time, we can't really take it live. But please do email us. We have a Telegram group. Sorry, I should have shared my slides earlier. I did not. My bad. Yeah, so we do have a Telegram group where you can ask questions. Yeah, so feel free to ask questions here. You can also ask questions through email. There is a askece@nus.edu.sg. And we also have a very active social media presence. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, etc., where you can also drop us a message. Okay, but Telegram group will be probably the most appropriate channel where probably about 250 prospective students are already in, and quite a few staff as well as seniors are in there. Okay, so please feel free to ask questions in the Telegram group. And in the Telegram group, we have also pinned a chatbot which may be able to answer some or many of your questions in an automatic manner. Okay, now on to the last two questions. When will we receive information about our registration or onboarding and other administrative matters? Also, when will we receive orientation matters or welcome session for freshmen? Truth be told, I don't have an exact information regarding this, especially the registration and onboarding matters. You'll be hearing quite a bit from the Office of University Registrar on creating a user ID, collecting your student card, formally getting enrolled, etc., etc. But I believe it will happen sometime during June. Okay, I don't have an exact date for that, but you will receive emails So please do check your emails frequently. I mean, that is if you are matriculating this August. Otherwise, it will be a couple of years before you may hear from us again. Next is, when will we receive orientation matters or welcome session for freshmen? For orientation matters, I believe it should be around mid of July. So one of the first communications you will get from the department will be regarding math refresher courses, which usually is conducted at around third week of July. So chances are that you will hear from us in early July regarding this. And around that time too, probably early mid-July, you will get information regarding orientation camps. I think early July you should get. Again, these are just my guesstimates based on how things are sequenced. I don't have an exact date. All I can tell you is that you should really keep checking your emails. Okay. Also keep checking your spam or junk folder as well, because it's not unlikely that unfortunately some of our emails could end up there. Now the last question. I see that there are many CS 1010 variants and engineers are recommended to take CS 1010E. What are the differences between CS 1010E, S, etc.? Okay, the main difference between the various variants is the language that is used. In terms of the concepts you learn, it's all the same. Language is just a means or a tool to get your work done, right? The logic involved in getting that work done, that is how you construct a program, how you test a program, etc., remains the same. The syntax of the program, the syntax of the programming language, the specific features offered by each programming language, the typical use cases, etc., may vary, but the concepts, foundational concepts taught in all CS 1010 variants are essentially the same. Now, why do we recommend CS 1010E for all engineers except computer engineers? The reason is that 1010E is taught in Python, and Python is kind of a Swiss Army knife these days, right? If you don't know which language to use for a purpose, you typically go for Python. Okay, which is very good for getting things done without too much fuss. Like for example, if you want to run a simple simulation, try a simple signal processing algorithm, machine language model, etc., etc., Python is usually the go-to language. Okay, there is another language, MATLAB, but that has reduced in popularity by ceding ground to Python. Now, CS 1010 is recommended for computer engineering students because CS 1010 is taught in C language. And for computer engineers, C language is extremely critical because computer engineers or computer engineering curriculum has a lot of emphasis on low-level programming in a manner that is very close to hardware, which is very important for example, writing device drivers, operating systems, and virtually anything that requires performance. And that's why CS 1010 is in C language. But having said that, EE students will also learn C as a compulsory language, okay, in EE 2028, microcontroller programming, where the language used is C, will be C for the foreseeable future. Now, in case you are wondering why we are still talking about a 50-year-old language like C, the simple answer is that almost every low-level code, all operating systems, okay, virtually all practically used operating systems, all device drivers, all programs that require high performance are all in C, C++. Even when you do all your machine learning stuff, you may try it out in Python to refine your algorithm, but eventually when you want to run it at scale, you almost always convert it to C, C++. Okay, there is another competitor now. Any guess which language is probably the closest competitor to C, C++ when it comes to performance programming and low-level programming? Anyone? Okay, Rust. Okay, but still, since C, C++ is so deeply entrenched, and it's probably easier to learn and get started than Rust, C, C++ is here to stay. So as EE or CEG students, you will end up learning it compulsorily anyway. But yeah, the answer to that question is that it's simply the language that is used that is different across the 10 variants. And I would say for the most part, it's not that big a deal. Once you learn one language, switching to another language is not so hard. Of course, every language has its own specialities and quirks, so you may have to do a bit of adaptation, but the concepts are somewhat or more or less the same. Anything that you want to add, Tawfiq or Ella, regarding the various languages in the
No.
curriculum?
Like I think like we mentioned before, I think it's quite easy now in this day and age to learn and to adapt from one
Yes.
to another. Yeah. But I think I mean for me, I think CS1010E is automatically
Python.
um
Yeah.
it's given to
Yeah.
them allocated, right? So
Yes.
I think it's easier to stick with allocations
Yes.
than go for anything wild.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, yeah, that ability to adapt is probably one of the most important skills these days, because gone are the times when you could learn a technology or a bunch of concepts, theory, or even practical knowledge, and hope that you can keep applying it until you retire, right? In a way, our parents or grandparents generation is lucky. They didn't have to stress over having to learn continuously. But we are in a time when we have no choice but to. If you are in the field of technology, every 5 years, things change so drastically that if you are not able to adapt, if you are not able to learn, you will be out of your job. That's a fact. Okay, so I guess that is it. Like I mentioned, please do contact us if you have any further questions. Thanks a lot for taking your time to talk to us. Now, any last words from Tawfiq or Ella before I close?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we went well beyond our allocated time, but I hope the session was useful for you. Uh, Thanks a lot, all the attendees, for staying back. And a million thanks to Tawfiq and Ella for taking your precious Friday evening to, share your experience and your opinions with your juniors or prospective juniors. Okay, so I really hope to see all of you students perhaps in a few months, perhaps a couple of years down the line, depending on your NS situation. Yep. Thank you all very much. Good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.